The underestimated species. The UES Pathfinder drifted silently through the void, its sensors scanning the darkness ahead. Captain Maya Chen watched the main view screen with practiced patience, her dark eyes reflecting the countless stars that surrounded them. This was humanity's most advanced vessel, the pride of the United Earth Fleet, representing decades of technological progress since mankind first ventured beyond their solar system. Yet, as the anomalous readings on her sensors grew stronger, the Pathfinder suddenly felt very small indeed. Contact, Captain. Unknown vessel approaching at bearing 045 Mark 12. Lieutenant Karim announced from the tactical station, his voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. Size estimate. It's massive. At least 3 kilometers in length. Captain Chen nodded, maintaining her composure even as her heart rate accelerated. Battle stations. Quiet protocols. Let's not appear threatening. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, powering up defensive systems while maintaining minimal energy signatures. They had trained for first contact scenarios for years, but training was always different from reality. This was the moment humanity had both dreamed of and feared since they first looked to the stars. "They're decelerating, Captain," reported Commander Ishikawa, her science officer. "Coming to relative stop approximately 50,000 kilometers ahead." The alien vessel that appeared on their screens was unlike anything human engineers had ever conceived. Where Earth ships were functional, angular constructs of titanium and carbon composites, this vessel seemed to flow like liquid metal frozen in space. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent blue-green glow, pulsing in patterns that seemed almost biological. "We're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Rodriguez. "They're speaking English." "Put it through," ordered Chen, straightening in her command chair. The view screen shifted to reveal a being that defied human expectations. It had a vaguely humanoid shape, but its skin was a metallic blue that rippled like mercury. 4 pupil-less eyes arranged in a diamond pattern regarded them from a face with no discernible mouth. "Greetings, humans of Earth," came a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. "I am Executor Zillor of the Vashuri Dominion. Your species has finally achieved sufficient technological advancement to warrant our attention." The condescension in its tone was unmistakable, though the alien's face betrayed no expression that humans could interpret. "I am Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth Fleet vessel Pathfinder," Chen replied evenly. "We welcome peaceful contact with your people." "Peace is the natural state of the civilized galaxy," Zyler replied. "Though it must be managed. Your species has shown promise, but also concerning tendencies toward conflict. The Dominion will guide your integration into the greater galactic community." Over the following weeks, more Vashuri vessels arrived in Earth's solar system. They allowed human representatives aboard their vessels, displaying technology that seemed centuries beyond humanity's capabilities. They could manipulate gravity without rotation, their weapons could vaporize asteroids in seconds, and their faster-than-light drives could cross between stars in days rather than the months or years that human ships required. At the United Earth Defense Headquarters beneath the ruins of Geneva, military and scientific leaders gathered in a secure chamber, the old-fashioned Faraday cage ensuring no signals could escape. "They treat us like clever animals," General Lakshmi Patel said, her weathered face grim as she studied the reports from the diplomatic team. "Every gift of technology comes with restrictions that keep us dependent on them." Admiral Kagawa nodded, his expression equally somber. "Their tech is at least 3 centuries ahead of ours in most areas. Their shields alone make our weapons completely ineffective." Dr. Victor Ramirez, head of Earth's Defense Research Division, tapped a folder marked Project Orion thoughtfully. "Perhaps not all of our weapons." "Explain," General Patel prompted. "The Vashuri defenses are primarily designed to counter energy-based weapons," Ramirez said. "Lasers, plasma, particle beams. Their shields distribute energy across their entire surface, dissipating it harmlessly." And Admiral Kagawa leaned forward. "And we've been working on something very different. Ramirez opened the folder, revealing schematics for a massive weapon. How long until the prototype is ready for testing? Dr. Elena Sokolov, the project's lead engineer, consulted her tablet. 8 months, minimum. We've achieved promising results in the lunar firing range. Our latest tests show projectile velocities approaching 8% of light speed. Keep it completely hidden, ordered Patel. As far as the Vashuri know, we're still playing with chemical rockets and laser pointers. The diplomatic dance continued. The Vashuri offered humans limited access to nearby star systems, but with humiliating restrictions, Earth ships could not carry weapons above a certain yield. Human colonies required Vashuri approval for locations and population limits, and Earth had to share all its technological developments while receiving only carefully curated gifts in return. Captain Chen represented Earth at the signing ceremony for what became known as the Treaty of Titan, held aboard a Vashuri space station orbiting Saturn's largest moon. The gas giant's magnificent rings formed a backdrop through the station's transparent walls. This treaty marks a new era for humanity, declared Executor Ziller. Your species is now officially recognized as a developing civilization with potential. Under our guidance, you may one day join us as junior partners in the galactic community. Chen smiled diplomatically as she signed the document. She had been chosen partly for her ability to conceal her thoughts behind a pleasant expression. At that moment, she was thinking about the report she had received that morning. Project Orion had successfully tested its first full-scale prototype on Mars. The United Earth Federation is grateful for the Dominion's generosity, Chen said, the practiced words feeling hollow in her mouth. Later, alone with her fellow Earth representatives, Chen watched the Vashuri ships through a viewport, their sleek forms gliding effortlessly through space. They think they're being benevolent, she said quietly, giving the primitive humans a small corner of space to play in while they remain firmly in control. How long do we maintain this charade? Asked one of the diplomats. As long as necessary, Chen replied. They believe we're centuries away from being anything but a curiosity. Let them keep thinking that. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of Mars, far from the prying sensors of Vashuri vessels, thousands of workers labored in secret. The first prototype of Project Orion was nearing completion, a massive electromagnetic railgun designed to accelerate simple metal projectiles to velocities that would make them nearly impossible to stop. The Vashuri shields were sophisticated energy distribution systems designed to counter the directed energy weapons that most advanced civilizations favored. They had never been tested against the brutal simplicity of a tungsten rod moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic energy of such impacts would overwhelm any defense the Vashuri had demonstrated. Dr. Sokolov watched as her team prepared for another test firing. The facility stretched 5 kilometers through the Martian bedrock. At one end sat the massive railgun prototype. At the other, sophisticated sensors waited to measure the impact. Begin power-up sequence, Sokolov ordered. The lights dimmed as energy flowed into the weapon, a low hum filling the chamber and growing until everyone could feel it in their bones. Capacitors at full charge. Magnetic rails aligned. Safety protocols verified, reported her assistant. Sokolov took a deep breath. Fire. The sound was like nothing human ears had heard before, a thunderclap that seemed to tear the fabric of reality itself. Down the length of the tunnel, the target chamber erupted in a blinding flash as the metal slug hit, vaporizing on impact. The entire facility shook with the force of the collision. Sokolov studied the readings and allowed herself a small smile. Send a message to Earth Command, she said. Tell them Project Orion is ready for Phase 2. We begin installation on the Mercury next month. As the message traveled to Earth, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, watching Vashuri vessels patrol Saturn's orbit. With their sleek, powerful ships, they looked invincible, untouchable in their technological superiority. But humanity had always excelled at surviving against impossible odds. In the darkness beneath Mars, their answer was taking shape. The Vashuri would learn soon enough that they had made a grave miscalculation. They had underestimated humans. The revolution begins. The blue-white glow of artificial lighting bathed Dr. Sokolov's face as she stood before the assembled military leadership. Behind her, through the reinforced viewport, they could see the UES Mercury taking shape in the massive underground shipyard. Unlike the utilitarian designs of previous human vessels, the Mercury incorporated elements of Vashuri aesthetics, sleek curves and flowing lines that made it appear more advanced than standard Earth ships. But its true innovation lay hidden within its frame. The Orion system has exceeded all performance metrics, Sokolov reported, her voice steady despite having worked for 72 hours straight. We've achieved projectile velocities of 11.4% light speed in our latest tests, enough to cross from Earth to Mars in under 4 minutes. Admiral Kagawa stepped forward to examine the holographic display showing the weapon's internal components and the Vashuri shields. Our simulations confirm they're fundamentally vulnerable to our approach, Sokolov replied. Their defensive technology distributes energy attacks across the entire shield bubble, but has no effective counter to hypervelocity kinetic impacts. She called up a simulation showing a Vashuri cruiser surrounded by its characteristic blue energy field. When struck by a laser, the shield glowed brighter but remained intact. Then she switched to a different scenario, a small projectile hitting the same shield at extreme velocity. Instead of stopping, it punched straight through, leaving a clean hole through the ship beyond. Their shields might as well be tissue paper against our railguns, Sokolov said. No energy field can change the basic laws of physics. Mass times velocity equals force, and we're delivering a tremendous amount of both. General Patel studied the simulation with narrowed eyes. How soon can we begin retrofitting our fleet? The Mercury will be operational in 3 months, replied Commander Jackson, the project's military liaison. We can accelerate production of additional ships with your authorization, but hiding the construction from Vashuri observation satellites becomes more difficult with each new vessel. Patel nodded grimly. We maintain secrecy as long as possible. The Vashuri must not suspect what we're developing until we're ready to negotiate from a position of strength. Their plans were interrupted just 4 weeks later. At the farthest human colony, a research outpost on Proxima Centauri, 3 Vashuri cruisers appeared without warning. Colony Director Aisha Hassan watched with growing alarm as the alien ships took position in orbit above the settlement. Inside the main control center, her staff worked frantically to determine the reason for the unexpected visit. They're scanning our facilities, reported Security Chief Mori. All 3 cruisers are focused on the Northern Research Dome. Hassan activated the communications panel. Open a channel to their lead ship. The screen flickered to life, revealing the impassive face of a Vashuri commander, its metallic skin reflecting the lights of its bridge. Director Hassan, it said without preamble, our sensors detect energy signatures consistent with prohibited weapons research. According to the Treaty of Titan, we have the right to inspect any human facility suspected of violations. Hassan maintained her composure despite her racing heart. Commander, there must be a misunderstanding. We conduct only agricultural and atmospheric research here. You're welcome to send a small delegation to verify this. The Vashuri's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Hassan had learned indicated displeasure. Our scans are not mistaken. Prepare for a full inspection. We will land troops in 6 hours. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. The screen went dark before Hassan could respond. She turned to her communications officer. Send an emergency message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Use the quantum channel. Within minutes, Hassan was connected to Defense Command on Earth. General Patel's face appeared on the secure screen. They're claiming we're developing prohibited technologies, Hassan reported. They're threatening a forced inspection. Patel's expression revealed nothing. What exactly are they detecting? Unknown, General. Our research is exactly as documented in our reports. Stall them. A diplomatic response team is preparing now. The UES Galileo is already en route with supplies and should reach you in 30 hours. Sir, if they search the northern complex, they'll find nothing illegal. That's not the point, Director. Patel's eyes hardened. They have no right to land troops on a human world. This is a sovereignty test. Hold your ground, but don't provoke them. Help is coming. The next day passed in tense waiting. The Vashiri ships maintained their positions, occasionally sending targeted scans at different parts of the colony. Hassan ordered all non-essential personnel to shelter in the emergency bunkers. Chief Mori burst into the command center just after midnight. Director, the Galileo just dropped out of FTL at the system edge. Hassan felt a surge of relief. The supply ship carried not just food and medicine, but also a diplomatic team with the authority to negotiate directly with the Vashiri. Her relief was short-lived. Vashiri vessels are moving to intercept, reported Communications Officer Park. They're powering weapons systems. Open a channel to the Vashiri commander immediately, Hassan demanded. Before the connection could be established, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the night sky. On the main screen, the sensor reading for the Galileo simply vanished. The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the empty spot on the display where their ship had been moments before. 83 people, whispered Officer Park, all civilians. Hassan gripped the edge of her console until her knuckles turned white. Send everything we just recorded to Earth. Every detail. On Earth, the emergency session of the Defense Council lasted less than an hour. The destruction of an unarmed civilian vessel violated every principle of the treaty. Even those who had advocated for patience with the Vashiri now called for action. Admiral Kagawa stood before the council. We must respond, but carefully. If we send our newest ships, we reveal our true capabilities. If we send nothing, we show weakness. What do you propose? Asked the council president. 3 ships, older models, ostensibly on a humanitarian mission to evacuate the Proxima colony. But the Mercury will accompany them, disguised as a supply vessel. The plan was approved unanimously. 12 hours later, a small flotilla of Earth ships emerged from FTL at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Captain Chen sat in the command chair of the Mercury, disguised as the civilian transport Hermes. Her ship's true nature was hidden beneath false hull plates and sensor-absorbing materials. Vashiri cruisers are moving to intercept, reported her tactical officer. Same formation they used against the Galileo. Chen nodded calmly. Broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth Humanitarian Fleet. We are here to evacuate our civilian research personnel following your declaration of treaty violations. We request safe passage. The response was immediate. Return to your departure point, human vessels. This system is under Dominion control pending investigation of treaty violations. Any approach will be considered hostile action. Chen looked to her communications officer. Are you recording this? Yes, Captain. All channels. Good. She turned to her tactical officer. Activate Orion systems. Prepare to drop our disguise on my mark. The Vashiri ships continued their approach, weapon systems glowing with building energy. They're targeting our lead vessel, reported Lieutenant Karim. Now, ordered Chen. The false hull plates covering the Mercury's weapons ports detached and fell away. 4 massive railgun barrels extended from the ship's frame, each longer than the vessel appeared to be. Energy readings spiked as the capacitors charge. Target their lead vessel. Minimal power, 20% velocity. We want to disable, not destroy. Target locked, confirmed Karim. Fire. The Mercury shuddered as the first railgun discharged. There was no visible beam, no dramatic light show, just a barely perceptible streak as the tungsten rod accelerated to 20% of the system's maximum velocity. On the view screen, the Vashiri cruiser's shields flared briefly at the point of impact. Then the projectile punched through as if the barrier weren't there, creating a clean hole through one of the ship's drive sections. Secondary explosions bloomed along its hull as atmosphere vented into space. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence. In all previous encounters, Vashiri shields had made their vessels seem invulnerable. "Target their weapon systems on the second vessel," Chen ordered, her voice steady. Same power settings. The second shot was as effective as the first. The Vashiri vessel's main weapon emitter disappeared in a spray of vaporized metal. The third Vashiri ship immediately began to retreat, accelerating away from the human flotilla. "They're broadcasting a wideband distress signal," reported Rodriguez. "Let them go," Chen said. "They need to report what happened here." Within days, the incident at Proxima Centauri became known throughout human space as the Mercury Revelation. Recordings of the brief engagement spread rapidly, showing humanity that the seemingly invincible Vashiri could be defeated. The Dominion's response was swift. A diplomatic delegation arrived at Earth, demanding explanations and threatening severe consequences for what they termed an unprovoked attack on peacekeeping forces. In the Grand Conference Hall of the United Earth headquarters, Executor Ziller faced General Patel across a wide table. "Your actions constitute a grave violation of the Treaty of Titan," Ziller declared, its voice resonating through the chamber. The development of such weapons was explicitly forbidden. Patel remained unruffled. The treaty prohibited energy weapons above certain yields. It said nothing about kinetic weapons. "A deliberate misinterpretation," Ziller countered. "The spirit of the agreement." "The spirit of the agreement," Patel interrupted, "was that humanity would accept a subordinate role in the galaxy." "That was never going to happen, Executor." She activated a holographic display showing dozens of ships under construction in facilities throughout the solar system. Each featured the distinctive railgun ports of the Mercury. "We have no desire for war," Patel continued, "but neither will we accept the role you assigned us. The destruction of the Galileo made that clear." "An unfortunate incident," Ziller said dismissively. "The ship failed to identify itself properly." "An unarmed civilian vessel," Patel corrected, "with 83 people aboard." The negotiations continued for weeks. The Vashiri demanded the dismantling of all railgun weapons. Earth refused but offered a new treaty, one that recognized human sovereignty and removed restrictions on technological development while establishing mutual defense agreements. The standoff might have continued indefinitely if not for events elsewhere in the galaxy. A squadron of Vashiri warships, sent to intimidate the human colony on Tau Ceti, encountered 3 Mercury-class vessels waiting in ambush. The resulting battle lasted less than 5 minutes. All 7 Vashiri ships were destroyed or disabled, without a single human casualty. Finally, after 3 months of tense diplomacy, a new agreement was reached. The Treaty of Earth recognized humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs, with the right to defend its own territories and develop its own technologies without interference. Captain Chen attended the signing ceremony alongside General Patel and Dr. Sokolov. As they watched Executor Ziller apply its mark to the document, Sokolov leaned close to Chen. "They still don't understand how we did it," she whispered. "They think we discovered some new scientific principle." Chen smiled faintly. "In a way, we did. We rediscovered something they'd forgotten in their rush to develop ever more sophisticated energy weapons." "What's that?" asked Sokolov. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. A rock thrown hard enough will break any window, no matter how advanced the glass." The Vashiri never fully recovered from the revelation of their vulnerability. Other species in the galaxy, long held under similar restrictive treaties, began developing their own versions of humanity's railgun technology. Within a decade, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Humanity expanded throughout nearby star systems, no longer constrained by arbitrary limitations. They did not seek conquest or domination, but neither would they accept subordination. The railgun revolution had changed more than just space warfare. It had changed humanity's place in the cosmos. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other civilizations looked toward Earth with new respect and perhaps a touch of apprehension. The humans had proven themselves to be innovative, determined, and dangerous when threatened. They were not to be underestimated again.